We've all had those mornings where we wish we could just reset. We imagine that if we could wipe away our mistakes, our heartbreaks, and our embarrassments, we'd finally be free to become the person we were meant to be. Forgetting is often pitched as the ultimate blessing, but Disco Elysium takes this fantasy and turns it into a waking nightmare. Imagine waking up on a floor that feels like a crime scene and realizing the victim is your own identity. Harry Dubois doesn't just have a hangover, he has a void where his soul used to be. He looks at a horrific necktie and doesn't know if it's a fashion choice or a suicide note. He is the ultimate blank slate, a man who has finally achieved the freedom of forgetting everything. This is where the dream of the tabula rasa, the blank slate theory famously championed by John Locke, meets a brutal reality. Locke suggested in his An Essay Concerning Human Understanding that we are born without innate ideas, that we are shaped entirely by our experiences. But Harry shows us the dark side of that coin. If we are only the sum of our experiences, then losing your memory isn't a fresh start, it's an execution. Without his past, Harry isn't a new man. He's a ghost in a rented room, proving that while the truth might set you free, forgetting it might just leave you hollow. We've been taught to view heartbreak as a wound, something that time eventually scabs over and heals. We treat it like a temporary loss of direction. But what happens when heartbreak isn't just a part of your life, but the very foundation of your reality? What if the person you lost was the only reason you know who you were in the first place? This is the wreckage we find in the mind of Harry Dubois. Deep in his psyche, he hasn't just lost a woman named Dora. He has built a religion around her absence. Every time he catches a scent of apricot chewing gum or sees a flash of blonde hair, his world doesn't just tremble, it shatters. He has turned his grief into a shadow soul that follows him through the streets of matinees, proving that some ghosts don't haunt houses, they haunt the people left behind. This deification of loss is a haunting example of what Søren Kierkegaard called sickness unto death. Kierkegaard argued that true despair isn't just sadness, it's the refusal to be oneself. Harry is in bad faith with his own existence. He would rather be a broken man worshipping a memory than a whole man facing a future without her. He has committed the ultimate philosophical error. He turned a human being into an idol. To understand the gravity of the trap Harry has set for himself, Kierkegaard's work on despair is essential. It helps us see that Harry isn't just mourning a person. He's mourning the only version of himself he ever liked. We like to tell ourselves that we are the masters of our minds, that there is a single I sitting at the controls of our lives. But have you ever felt a part of you screaming to stay in bed, while another part drags you to work? or a voice in your ear telling you to say the one thing you know will ruin a relationship. In Disco Elysium, this isn't just a metaphor, it's a crowded room. Harry doesn't just think, he negotiates with a committee of 24 distinct, often violent personalities. From the lizard brain whispers of electrochemistry to the cold, razor sharp critique of logic, Harry is a passenger in a body driven by a mob. He is a walking civil war, proving that the self isn't a solid diamond, but a shattered mirror reflecting a dozen different versions of reality. This mirrors the society of mind theory proposed by Marvin Minsky. He argued that intelligence isn't the product of a single self, but the result of a massive collective of mindless agents working together. Harry is a living laboratory of this idea. By listening to his voices, we realize that we aren't a single soul. We are a delicate balance of conflicted drives. To understand why your own mind feels like a battlefield, Minsky's The Society of Mind offers a blueprint that makes Harry's chaotic internal monologue feel less like madness and more like an honest look at how we all actually function. We often wait until we are fixed before we start our lives. We tell ourselves that once we stop being messy, once we stop being broken, then we can finally do something that matters. But what if the mess is exactly where the work gets done? By the end of his journey, Harry is still a wreck. He still smells of the sea and bad decisions. But he is also a decorated detective. He solves the impossible, not despite his fractured mind, but because of it. His brokenness gives him a perspective the sane world can't see. He stands in the twilight of matinees, a man who is both a disaster and a hero, proving that you don't need to be whole to be useful. This brings us to the ultimate triumph of existentialism, particularly the work of Albert Camus in The Myth of Sisyphus. Camus tells us that the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Harry is Sisyphus, and his amnesia is his rock. He might lose his memory again tomorrow. He might fail again. But in the moment he chooses to solve the case, he wins. He proves that meaning isn't something you find. It's something you create in the middle of the wreckage.